If you're interested in science and you really want to get involved in research, working with data, the best thing you can do is to ask lots of questions and to begin observing your own world and looking for relationships.
If you're particularly interested in the environment or how you can make a difference in developing policies that can improve the environment and help make our lives more sustainable in general, there are many ways you can get started. There's certainly many fields you can start in. One thing you can do to kind of test the waters to see if this is a career that you would be interested in is to get involved with a local watershed group. If you don't know your local watershed group, you can just Google it. You can use EPA's Surf My Watershed site, enter your address, and it'll tell you not only what watershed you live in, but what groups are currently active. And a lot of these watershed groups do something called citizen science, where they have you as someone who is not a trained scientist, perhaps, go out into the environment and collect data. Maybe it's water quality data, maybe they have you go out and collect fish and identify them to see what kind of fish are in your local streams. But it's a really good way to see if you enjoy doing the kind of field work or perhaps lab work associated with this field, and to see if you're really interested in trying to understand what are some of those drivers of the ecosystem health or water quality in your watershed.
When I was growing up in Brazil, there was no climate change at that point, but there were lots of problems, lots of environmental problems, and I always cared about what happened to the environment. On the other hand, I never was so interested in the more physical or natural aspects of the environment, but mostly about how people affect the environment and also how people can avoid environmental problems. That's how I chose to do political science. And I think that pursuing what you really want, what you really care about, is the most important thing on achieving your goals. And nobody could tell you that you're not going to do it or you cannot do it. If I could do it, coming from where I come from in Brazil, I would say I'm the best case scenario. Anybody can do it. So I think that being passionate about something and really exploring and finding what you want is the most important thing. And there are lots of things in the environment that need good people.
The advice I would give to people that might want to work in environmental fields is it's not so different from any field, is to figure out the things that are interesting to you and then find out more about those. Say in environmental science or environmental engineering, there are people who their main contribution is teaching and educating other people about the issues and the state of the system. Whether they're naturalists, whether they're elementary school teachers, or they work for some government agency. If you're interested in kind of figuring out what the problems are, then you would start to experiment with different types of volunteer opportunities, or maybe even jobs that give you a taste of the different ways that people contribute there. So it's everything from working in a laboratory, going out and collecting samples. It might be working with individual species and threatened or endangered species. So figuring out what particular part of the system is of most interest to you, and then matching your own abilities and skills and the way that you like to interact with the issues, the way that the amount of time that you like to interact with people or not. And then find the right combination that takes advantage of the best mix of those things.
If you're interested in working on these types of environmental problems, it's really good to get a solid basis in math and science. So that you can do by doing well in your classes in middle school and high school. But ultimately, I think a lot of it comes down to being curious and learning how to ask the right questions. And so that's something that you can do as an internal dialogue when you are trying to understand new material. For example, with the project that you're working on right now, continually asking questions is what makes people good scientists. The skills are things, the math and science skills, you can learn a lot of that. Data analysis, learning how to run models. And I think one of the more important things is to kind of keep being curious about the problem and keep asking good questions until you think you've got a good understanding of the topic.
So there are a lot of small things that when we add up could really be helpful for the Great Lakes. One of the best things you can do to contribute to solving problems in the Great Lakes is to know what they are and to understand them a little better. So what I would mean by that is that if you hear about a problem going on in the Great Lakes, look into it a little bit. Research, understand what the factors are that are going into that, and don't be closed-minded to that information. There might be something surprising there.
I'm passionate about the environment. I'm passionate about the effect that climate change will have on the environment, but I'm also a profound optimist. And I think that people can do things that will avoid the most negative impacts. But we have to do it now, and for that we need more people interested in it, and we need more people studying it to make better decisions.